So ever since NASCAR 25 came out, I have been playing it hours on end, pulling an all-nighter when the game came out, and this whole time I've been playing it with a wheel. I haven't even touched a controller when driving to play it, so I have no idea how a controller feels. I just have experience with a wheel, and I am honestly absolutely loving the experience. I know that there are people with some issues with the driving, with the force feedback in this game with the wheel, but for me, there hasn't been any issues. It might have to do with certain wheels or certain systems, but for me, I've never run into any issues. And I just launched the game again and played it right after they patched it, and the force feedback is definitely a lot stronger. You definitely feel it. I had to crank it down for myself because it was that strong. So I'm playing this game now and giving you these opinions before the force feedback update and after, and both times it's felt great to me, and I've thoroughly been enjoying my time that I haven't even wanted to touch the controller. And I guess a little bit of background about me and my experience with wheels. I've been sim racing hardcore for the past 5 years. You can check out all the backlog in this channel, playing games like iRacing, Assetto Corsa, but also more less sim focused games like NASCAR Heat, like F1. So I've played the whole gambit of whatever you can play with a steering wheel. And as someone who has had great experiences, okay experiences, and poor experiences, I can say I'm having a great experience with a wheel playing NASCAR 25. And for me personally, I would recommend it to someone who wants to play this game with a wheel. So let's dive into it. First of all, the most important thing with a wheel, first category, force feedback and handling. How does the force feedback feel? It doesn't feel as detailed as games like iRacing, of course. It feels more weight shifty. It's similar to me, at least, like Gran Turismo 7, where most of the force feedback is feeling the weight of the car shift. And in that sense, it's better than the previous NASCAR game from the studio, the game we've all been playing for the past 5 years, NASCAR Heat 5, because you can actually feel the weight transfer of the car and can adjust your steering to catch slides, and of course take advantage of drifting a little bit to try to maximize your speed through a corner. And through that, I've been able to save a lot of slides in this game, and especially in the Xfinity car, able to really get a nice slip angle, a satisfying slip angle, to be able to go through the corner as fast as possible. And that's all thanks to being able to feel the weight transfer in the steering wheel. And so in that sense, I'm really liking the handling. It's not as detailed as iRacing. You probably won't get a good sense of losing traction off the throttle. You really don't. But when you're at full speed going through a fast corner, which is most of NASCAR, you're really going to feel that weight transfer, and you're going to understand how you can adjust your car based on that weight transfer. Now, moving on to wheel compatibility and setup. For me, my wheels and pedals work properly straight out the box. I am using an old wheel. In fact, I'm using wheelbase, I should say, the Fanatec CSL Elite. This is the wheel before the CSL DDs came out. This was their mid-tier wheel, and I'm using the round Fanatec wheel rim. And it worked immediately on PS5 mode out of the box. But unfortunately, the game doesn't recognize a clutch or an H pattern shifter, which is a disappointment for myself. Not a deal breaker, but it is disappointing because I love to get fully immersed and feel like a NASCAR driver. And the ARCA truck series and the Xfinity cars still use an H pattern shifter. With the cup cars, you can map the paddle shifters to the sequential mode of a Fanatec shifter, so you can have that experience there, but of course you still won't be using a clutch pedal. Not a deal breaker, but a little disappointing. Hopefully on the PC release they add that. Another small disappointment includes the lights on the wheel, at least on my Fanatec wheel, do not work, so none of the lights light up as far as shifting goes, which is another disappointment, but again, not a deal breaker. And finally, maybe I didn't see it in the setting, but it seems like there's no way right now to remap the buttons. So those are a few things, but the button layout is standard. It's how it was in NASCAR Heat 5, and I had no reason to change it. But if you do want to change it, unfortunately, there is no way to remap any of the buttons. But again, not a deal breaker for me, but if I'm being honest, it might be a deal breaker for some. So these are important things to know if you're considering buying this game because you want to play it with a wheel. But the big thing is setting up the wheel, because out of the box it didn't feel good. I'll be honest, it didn't feel good out of the box. Felt like you had to turn the wheel way too much, and because of that, the car just wasn't responsive. And so I tested my settings before the update and after the update, the force feedback update, and the only thing I changed was weakening the force feedback. Other than that, what I did was keep all the default settings the same, except for, of course, the force feedback strength. You adjust that how you like. I used normal steering setup, but what I did was I changed my wheel's degree of rotation. This is the key. The wheel's degree of rotation, I changed it to 240 degrees. It's a trick I learned playing their World of Outlaws game. And of course, when you play one of the older iRacing NASCAR games, NR 2003, you also have to I put it down to 240. And so I decided to put it to 240 here, and it felt fantastic. That's how I felt that weight transfer. That's how I made the car feel twitchier. All I needed to do was set the degrees of rotation to 240, and all my issues were solved. It felt great. The only negative thing about having the wheel rim, the degrees of rotation set to 240, is it will no longer match the steering wheel on screen if you like to use cockpit cam. However, that wouldn't be a distraction, because thankfully in this game you can turn off the steering wheel in cockpit cam, or you can use other cameras, of course. And for me, unless I'm using triple monitors, I'm not using cockpit cam. And if I am using that camera, I find having a wheel on the screen getting in the way. I already have my wheel in real life, so I always turn the wheel off. But I know a lot of people like to have that steering wheel on the screen, so if you do switch it to 240, it's going to be very distracting because it's not going to match. But if you don't care about having that wheel on screen or having it match, then there's no negatives to bringing it down to 240 degrees. So maybe other people's experiences are different, but for me, This game is so worth it with a wheel. We won't get into career mode or anything else like that in this video. That's for a separate video, but purely on playing the game with a wheel, is it worth it? Yes, it is. If you have any questions or comments, don't hesitate to leave them down in the comments below. And if you want to see more NASCAR 25 content, don't hesitate to subscribe. Hope this video helps some people out. Thanks for watching.